Hello and Croeso! Welcome my friends to my painting channel, and in this video I have something very special and very unique for you. I have this really great 3D printed model from VaultzMiniatures of Regina from the Dino Crisis video game. So if you're a Capcom fan, just like I know a lot of you have been enjoying my Resident Evil videos, this should be a rare and random treat for you indeed. We are going to paint this using a very big mixed variety of colours, and we're going to start with the skin. If you've watched me paint skin before, you know how I paint skin, and as you can see I've base coated this one using an Army Painter sort of dark brown primer. I've started using a dark brown primer for a couple of different reasons. So the first reason is normally when I prime in grey, I get a lot of people on the channel asking if I've even primed the model to begin with. So having something like a dark brown will show that the models have been primed, and it's a great place to start. But also another reason why I'm priming in brown is because this is a really good base colour that we can build things like skin tones and things like that up from. So this is going to give us a really cool sort of base tone, so a really cool base colour that will allow us to build things up and build colours up and kind of show you how we go. So once we've done the first base colour of the skin, we're then going to move on and use a little bit of flesh wash, just like so. I'm just going to cover this in the face and the arms and the fingertips. As you can see, I've painted all of those areas using this skin. This is a very simplistic sort of character, so there's a lot of cool details on this. VaultzMiniatures, the guys that designed this, have done a fantastic job in bringing this character to life from the video game. And there's a lot of cool details and a lot of cool little bits to paint on this. But the paint sort of scheme, the colour scheme that was originally designed for this character is actually very limited. It's quite basic. So we're going to kind of bring it to life, but it's going to be quite simple as well. So once our flesh wash is dry, we're just going to go back on with that tanned flesh. So with that colour that we used as the base colour, because we started with the tanned flesh to begin with. And we're going to build that colour back up, but we're just going to leave the wash in all of those little recess points and all of those little cracks and grooves. You know, things like creating the muscle tone, the texture, painting around the cheeks, the chin, the nose, the forehead, all of these different things, so that it brings the face to life and it brings those muscle tones to life as well. Just going to use the very tip of a size 0 painting brush and just really slowly try to pick out all of those details, trying to be as careful as possible. Again, if you make mistakes at this stage, you can easily fix them, but it's always good to try to be as careful as possible right from the word go. Then we're going to mix barbarian flesh and tanned flesh together, so we're going to use half and half. I would normally say one blob of each, so that's a nice straight 50% split, and that will give you a really great smooth transition. Now this is a great step up, so we've used our base colour for the flesh, and then using this half stop up is going to give us a really nice sort of blend and a really nice segue into the next stage, in the highlight stage of the flesh. It's always good to paint in this sort of way where you get used to mixing those colours and sort of blending those colours together. And normally if you take the base colour and the highlight colour and blend them in together or into the next stage, that gives you a really nice smooth transition. It's something that is quite easy to do, something that will build your confidence with painting, but it's also something that allows the model to have a really nice smooth transition and look a lot more pleasing to the eye as well. So it's very much worthwhile sort of learning how to just mix those paints in a very nice even fashion. So, because once we've done the mixed layer, then we're going to use the barbarian flesh on its own as the highlight, and this is going to give us a really cool sort of highlight tone and a highlight texture. And you can push this further as well if you wanted to, so you can push the highlights then again even more. And as you can see, just using that size 0 brush, I'm just picking out all of those little bits, the cheekbones, the chin, just around the forehead, the nose, and then just picking out where I think the light will be across those parts of the arms, so the muscle across the shoulder and the muscle tone just going through the arm. So as I said, if you wanted to, you could go a little bit further. So I've used the Army Painter up until now, so I'm just going to add a small amount of basic skin tone from Vallejo, and this is going to be the extreme highlight. So you can add a little bit or you can add quite a lot. It depends on sort of your style of painting. What I would normally do with this is water this down quite a bit so that this becomes a cool, nice glaze, and this will blend into the model quite nicely, and it will give you a really nice highlight as well. Now this takes to the model a little bit too bright originally, so it may look a little bit too garish and over the top as you sort of apply it, but it will dry down quite smooth and add a really nice, great texture to the model. Now, as I said earlier, with Regina, her colour tone and things like that, her colour palette is quite limited, but one of the really cool standout features with her is she has this really, really great, really sort of extremely red hair. So we're going to start with a Mayhem Red. We're going to go with a scale 75 paint, and this is really going to allow us to get a really great sort of base colour for this hair. It's one of the really cool things, because you've got this limited sort of blacks and greys for the outfit. This red hair really does allow her to really stand out, and it really does catch your eye, so it brings your eye to the model. So focusing a little bit on this red hair is going to be a really great thing to do, because this is where we're going to get a lot of like I say, it's going to draw your eye to it. So when you're looking at the model, this is where you're going to go, wow, look how amazingly bright that hair is. And of course, once that has dried, we're then going to use Ash Grey. This is from the AK Interactive paint range. This is a nice sort of dark grey, nice flat dark grey, I should say. And this is where we're going to paint all of those legs, the arms and things like that. So this is going to be all of the sleeves and all of those areas. As you can see, just painting across the legs, down by the boots and things like that. Just around the all of those areas where it looks like a little bit of clothing or a little bit of cloth just along the leggings. We're also just going to do a little bit just down the front here as well, as you can see. So the sort of black armoured part, or the black leathered part, is just over the top of that sort of grey jumpsuit underneath, if you like. And there you go, you can see, just trying to cover all of this in this nice grey colour. This is really going to bring the colours together, because this is where you're going to start to see the character sort of come to life. It's going to start to remind you of that character that you've played as, or that you remember from years ago. Now, once we've done with that, we're going to use a tenebrous grey. So this is a really dark grey. This is almost black, but it's not quite black. If you've watched me paint before and you've painted on the channel before, then you'll know this is one of my favourites. This is a really great colour. So this is where we're going to paint all of that black sort of leather. We're going to paint all around the front, and then all just around underneath. Just trying to be careful not to get this on the skin, but using this to tie those colours together and tidy up all of those extra bits that may be overhanging as well. And this is, again, the next step, which is really going to bring that character to life, and you're really going to notice that character that you've remember from years ago as well, which is great. Just trying to be careful not to get this on the grey, but you can tidy that up as well as you go. So just painting this all around the gloves and things like that as well. Then we're going to move on and do some of the metallics. So I'm just going to do a few really simple techniques with this one. You're going to use a gunmetal from Vallejo. This is a great mid-tone metallic. This is quite similar to Citadel's Lead Belcher. And I'm just going to paint these two sort of little weapons that she's holding. I'm not quite sure what they are. They look like Uzis, but I'm not a gun expert. But we're just going to paint these using a cool silver color. And then when we add and apply sort of a darker wash to it, that should be pretty much all we need. But we'll take a look as we go. I'm going to use a leather brown from the AK Interactive, and again, this is another one of my favourite paints. This is another one of my favourite colours. This is a really great base colour for leathers, and this will allow us to build up a lot more tone and a lot more colour as we go as well. I'm just going to paint all of the straps just around the holster on her hip and around the belt as well. As you can see, I've just got a few little belt straps and things like that just around the body. I'm going to paint these brown as well. Now, depending on which way you want to go, you could use or keep these black if you want to, but I like to paint a lot of the leathers in a brown, and in quite a few of the original concept arts, she does have brown leather holsters and things like that as well. We're going to move on to one of my favourite washes. This is a dark tone. This is a fantastic wash from the Army Painter. This is one of the new ones I've picked up very recently, because Firestorm Games has just opened very recently in my local town, which is fantastic because now I can get all of the painting range and all of the paints that I need nice and quickly and easily. And that's all I'm going to do with this, is just apply this across all of those areas that we've just painted. So we're going to cover the guns, we're going to go over all of those greys, we're going to go over the brown, and we're also going to go over the hair as well with this, because this is going to allow us to create that tone and that sort of deeper, darker points around the hair, which will give us the opportunity to build the highlights up as we go. As you can see, I'm just trying to be as careful as possible, because we don't want to get this on the skin that we've already painted, because at this stage although it can be fixed, it would be a little bit of a pain to have to go back and redo those bits. So we're just going to try to be as careful as possible. That's why, although I'm applying a wash, we're using a small, fine detail brush as well. So I have a few different brushes that I use for washes of all different sizes, because you never know when you're going to need to use sort of like a pin wash or a very specific detailed area for the wash as well. Now we're going to wait for the wash to dry. That's going to take a little bit of time, but once that is dry, we're then going to go back to the ash grey, and we're going to build those grey tones back up first. Now as you can see, the wash has darkened everything down, but it has tied all of those colours together as well, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we want, because this now gives us the next stage and the next phase to be able to build all of those colours and all of the character back into the model. So using the very tip of the size 0 brush, and again now using our brush strokes to create character and create folds and creases, we're now going to slowly build that colour back up, as you can see. So we're just going to start just around on the back of the model here, and just start with some of the larger areas so that we can get that colour and that highlight to show through. And then as we come around to the front area of the legs, you can see where I'm leaving that darker tone in those folds and in those creases, and that's what's going to give us that really cool sort of contrast between the lighter greys and those little darker folds, and that's going to build, as I say, a really great contrast to the character. Now, although this is a very limited sort of colour palette for a character, we are still going to have some fun and really bring it to life quite simply, quite easily, and it's really going to look the part as well. So I'm going to do the same thing just across those sleeves, just build in the highlight, build in the colour, and then we're going to choose to keep the highlight higher up on the top of the arms and leave a little bit darker just underneath. So again, that creates that light and dark contrast. And we can use our brush strokes as well to control how we want the folds to look and things like that. And that's what's going to give our model a real individual specific look, and you'll be able to see that you've painted it because it's been painted by your own sort of brush strokes as well. It creates your own character. Then I'm going to use a little bit of graphite mixed in with the ash grey. So like we did earlier with the skin, we're going to use a half and half split, so a 50-50, so it's just one blob of each, and a little bit of water just to thin those paints. And then we're going to use this as a great highlight, and we're going to do the same thing as what we've just done with the ash grey. What we're going to do is we're going to slowly build up that colour and slowly build up those highlights. Now the cool thing with this is you could be a lot more specific about where you place this. So this will give you the opportunity to build that contrast and that lighting between the lighting areas, or the areas that you think you want the light to catch on the model, versus areas where you want it to be just that little bit darker. So as I said, with all of those creases, you can see where I'm very carefully picking out all of those folds now, and that's giving us the opportunity to really get that light and dark to show through, as you can see. Just like so. And again, I'm using all of those brush strokes to really build the illusion of creases and the illusion that the sort of clothing or the cloth itself has folds and is moving in the dynamic pose as well. And that adds just that little bit extra character and detail to the model as well. There we go, just like so. Picking out the knees and things like that. There we go. And you can really see this character is already looking the part. So we're pretty much, we're pretty much there. It's not a massive character in terms of, as I say, colour palette. You don't need loads of over-the-top colours, crazy highlights and over-the-top things. You could be quite sort of subdued with this and still get a really great result. So going back with that red hair, like I said earlier, this is going to be an area that really stands off the model. So I'm going to use Mayhem Red. This is a nice lighter red, so this is going to give us that little bit of a cherry kind of look. So it's going to give us this really nice light red sort of cherry kind of hair, which is really, really great because, again, we want that hair to really, really stand off the model. Again, against all of that sort of monotone, all those greys and blacks and things like that, this red hair is really going to allow her to stand out as well. It's fantastic. So you could dry brush this if you want. As you can see, I'm just slowly trying to pick out different strands of hair and things like that. It is quite difficult on certain models, so as I say, dry brushing is a very legitimate way of painting hair. You will still be able to pick out a lot of those tones and details and character as well. So there we go, just building all of that red up, and you can really see that light tone is coming through, and you can apply multiple layers and things like that as well. So once we've got that cherry colour, we're going to use a Bal Crimson. This is a much lighter sort of colour. So for this one, this is going to be very, very specific. We're not going to go too extreme and paint the whole thing. We're just going to try to pick out areas where we think the light would catch. So just across the top of the hair and things like that. So we're just going to cut that just across the very, very top of the hair. Just picking out all of those areas that we want the highlight to be. This is a nice thin down paint, so again you can apply multiple layers to get the real sort of colour tone and real highlight effect that you'd like. And again, you could dry brush it if you wanted to as well. That's absolutely fine. And there we go, we can just pick out all of those bits. Once that's done then, again, if you've painted with me before, you'll know this is a tried and tested colour scheme. So we're going to use a leather brown and deep brown. And again, we're going to go half and half. So just one blob of each and a little bit of water just to thin these down. And we're going to slowly build this as a really nice highlight to all of those leathers. And again, this is going to create sort of a reddish tone to those leathers and allow those leathers to really stand off that sort of dark sort of black tone and things like that as well. Now with the black, I'm going to use, or rather the tenebrous grey, so this black sort of armour. I'm actually not going to build anything up on top of the black. Maybe a little bit of a cop-out, but the light is catching the model just where it needs to when the model is sort of on display. So I don't really need to build too much highlighting or things onto that black tone. Now I know that in the game she's got this reflective tone and you can add these little bits of white and fake sort of lighting and things like that, and that's completely up to you. You're more than welcome to do so. The only reason why I didn't want to do that with this particular model is if I choose to specifically pinpoint where those highlights would be, say if I move the model from a different angle or the light is catching the model from a different angle, then it may not look natural or it may not look quite as normal. So I've opted not to do that. Instead, we're just going to focus on the bits that are really going to stand out. So like the hair, and like now adding just that deep brown as a highlight onto the leathers, because these are areas that are really going to catch your eye and stand off that flat black. And once everything is done, you should have something that looks like this. Here she is fighting off against a Lego dinosaur, because in our house, my children are a little bit older, so I don't have many dinosaurs here to use as props. But it still looks really cool, still looks really fun. And as you can see, I've just made a very, very basic coloured base so that that doesn't detract from the model at all. As always, my friends, I thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Thanks for your patience and waiting for the videos to come out. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up or write a comment. I always love talking to you. Give me a thumbs up if you remember Dino Crisis, and let me know if you would love to see a remaster just as much as I would. Take care of yourselves, my friends, and I will see you guys on the next one. I appreciate you all very, very much.